Hey there, everybody. Welcome to week two. Just moving right on, learning about religion. I did. Hopefully, you guys were able to see. Excuse me. I responded to everybody's "What is religion?" post. Good job. A lot of really great responses there. Um, on my end, I only had 30 seconds to respond, so that's why it was a little bit rushed. I could have said more to everyone's response. They were really good. Thanks for doing that. Hopefully. Just kind of it's a good way to start thinking about um, this topic, which is broad. I think a lot of people said, it's really hard to define. Yes, it's true. Some of the terms that came about, I thought were sort of that a lot of people talked about was things like guidance. Religion offers guidance and comfort. It gives purpose. A lot of people talked about that. A lot of people mentioned religion is somewhat structured or has laws or rules, and these kind of guide right and wrong or morality. I think that was really great. And ideas of religion as compassion. One that people talked about a lot that I thought was interesting was religion as a relationship, which I thought was great. It's personal. I thought that was really good, and that it helps answer questions. So, yeah, really good. Again, I was more just sort of thought exercise. And then what did you think about religion, and how does that mesh into kind of what the course materials we're talking about? Because that's kind of there was sort of like, what is this topic? And again, it's very broad. People have been talking about this and thinking about religion for a long time, which kind of transitions into this week, where we're sort of looking at early origins of religion. We talked about there's sort of early cave art. This is an example of humans express some of the earliest examples of human expressions we have, particularly artistic expressions. And when you're talking art, you're talking, how do humans represent things, both physical things. Some of that art is, here's a buffalo or a bull or or hunting scene or people. Some of that is sort of metaphysical, which I gave that scene of like the person who maybe died. A lot of it's still interpretation, but it's kind of humans. It shows that humans have been thinking about these concepts. And then this Venus figure again, which we don't fully know about, but we could infer. What would we use it for today? And 30,000 years ago, those humans weren't that much different than us. So what did they think about it? And ideas connection with fertility, childbirth, spring, procreation. Those are all issues that relate to humans as well. So, and then we kind of got into polytheism. Again, sort of one of the first, I guess, phases of religion, if you will, where you have multiple gods and each one sort of governs a different realm. And within the gods, a lot of these are creation myths. These gods created them in certain ways. The worlds were created by the gods or different figures. And I kind of try to highlight that in different regions. That Mesopotamia has a creation myth. Marduk is one of them. There are a few other ones, but Marduk is and he's the god of Babylon. A lot of these cities have different gods. We gave the Epic of Gilgamesh is sort of that chapter of that, really God-centric, the Ishtar and Gilgamesh and their relationship, and then the death deals with as well. So good to see kind of some of that with that reading. And then Egypt, again, I think people are familiar with some of the gods there, but I mean, they're very much, each god has its own little realm, its own little division, a lot of festivals there. The pharaoh is sort of a god and human, sort of this divinity there. The sun being very important in Egypt, because it's very hot there. And then Greece, which again, I think maybe some people are maybe a little more familiar with. I'm familiar. I think I gave a little asterisk there. I'm familiar via Percy Jackson. I read that with my child, so I learned a lot about it. I mean, I heard these names, but that kind of gave some mythology to it. So kind of flushing that out a little bit. Gave that video Prometheus, giving the fire to humans. I mean, that's a big. You can see how that would be a very big transition. So, yeah. And origin myths and other, I think I talked about that too, and in different examples of, obviously Genesis is one that people are familiar with, but most religions have some sort of origin myth where things came from. So, and then afterlife as well, which particularly which Egypt is a good example of that their afterlife is very robust, that their afterlife, the concept of afterlife is really just another phase of life. which was unique to Egypt. We don't have that. We don't really, at least in Mesopotamia. Another element of Gilgamesh is he tries to find immortality, and he doesn't. So humans die. Greece, you have the river Styx. Elysium, right? It's sort of this realm of heaven, but there's a god of heaven, Hades, or Pluto, right? That oversees all of this. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of, this is the background of that. And then this week, just do this Padlet. Again, some people have emailed, what is this Padlet? And there's a link there for that'll get you to the Padlet page. Which on the Padlet page, if you go down to the bottom right, there's a little plus sign in a circle. You click on that, it'll open up a box, and then you can put in your title, and then you can put, hopefully your name pops up there. If not, make sure your name's there somewhere. You can then upload an image of whatever god or goddess you're going to discuss, and then there just kind of talk about what is our special place. Do we know where this goddess came from? The origins. And if you look at the Greek world, their origins are just all over the place. I'm not 100% sure about Egypt, where some of these gods originated from, but with them you could talk about the heads, what the heads represent, as part of that anthropomorphizing of gods. Mesopotamia has a lot of god relations as complex as Greece. They're always kind of meddling with each other. And then what do they govern? What do they kind of look over? Like Poseidon and the ocean. And then what are some stories about these gods that we have, or festivals, or what are they known for? So just kind of, pick a god, pick something you're interested in, and discuss it. And then once you're done writing about that, just push publish, and it should populate right on the screen there, right on the Padlet screen. So, but if you have questions or have issues with the Padlet, just let me know. I can help you walk through that as well. I think that's all my notes for this week. Hope you had fun learning about a bunch of gods and kind of get an idea of civilization. And the next week we'll get into Abrahamic religions, which sprout out of this world. All right. Have a good rest of your week.